And, until the system itself feels threatened. One of the problems we have is that we very often approach power with nothing other than our good ideas. And power doesn't care at all about that. And power doesn't care about marches. I mean, I just heard someone the other day said, oh, that's nice. They had a march of people. It changes nothing unless you're able to actually apply something with that mobilization, with that organization, to threaten power, to force them to do something they don't want to do. And when you have this situation, like as you were saying, with say the healthcare insurance companies, what's the threat to them? What's the danger to them that will force them to change? They own the government. That's not going to force them to change. We have to have healthcare, or else, right? What's the alternative?
Right.
So what then becomes the only way to address this incredible, wicked, and vile injustice that is again, we're not being hyperbolic here. We're not exaggerating here. Tens of thousands, was it 40 to 70,000 Americans die every year because of the healthcare insurance industry? And how many millions more are ruined? Whether it's the psychological and emotional distress of going through this, whether it's the financial ruination, what are the numbers? I ran that camp. You ran your campaign more recently than I, Jen. So you should have this in your head better than I would. Like, was it 1 in 4, 1 in 2 cancer survivors go bankrupt? All the different things are it's astounding. And again, I was just in Europe when this happened, and they were fascinated by this. And many of them also understand what's going on. They understand it. And just as you said, if someone hurt my child, if someone hurt my parent, if someone hurt my spouse or significant other, what would I do? Particularly when I have nothing left to lose. And I heard someone quote, freedom is just another word. We have nothing left to lose, right? You now have the freedom to act. And it is. This is whether we'll see more following Luigi Mangione, and how the establishment will react to make sure that doesn't happen. But this terrifies them. This is very similar. These acts of violence like this, very similar to how they feel about like TikTok and about people like you all, right? And the threat that it poses, because this is a type of thing that can upset them. One, it's the information, the knowledge, as well as two, the utilizing that information, knowledge to act, particularly in a manner that they're actually threatened by.
Good. I like that. That pleases me. Do you want life? What's this from? What's this news?
The New York Times.
Oh, okay.
Suspect in CEO killing withdrew from a life of privilege and promise. The suspect, Luigi Mangione, was an Ivy League tech graduate from a prominent Maryland family who in recent months had suffered physical and psychological pain.
They're going to use every possible twist and turn of this to just obviously try to villainize him, because they don't have much. But Matthew, my theory is this. I just don't see them finding 12 people that don't have a bias against healthcare. I don't see them finding 12 people that will convict this guy. I don't see it.
I don't know. I don't know. Certainly, whoever they get who's able to qualify for the jury who hasn't heard about this, you're already got to be concerned about their wherewithal in terms of. But he did what he did. He shot and he's reported. It's clear. It's on video. But the purposes weren't so much the killing as it was what used to be called the agitprop, right? The idea that you need an act to cause further actions. You need an act to excite. You need something that's going to inspire people to then take action themselves. And it catches on like a fire, right? It's the small ember leads to the great forest fire. And I think that's essentially what people are attempting to do here. And I expect, unless the establishment realizes whether it's the domestic establishment or the imperial our empire, unless it understands the danger that it's facing, and that the only way to avoid further acts like this from that ember becoming a forest fire is to actually change, then the history tells us what can come.
Well, the thing that I think is important to note here, and this is exactly why they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're identifying the fact that he does come from an affluent family. But how did his affluent family make their money? They made their money through senior living facilities.
Among other things. Among other things.
But they were profits of essentially the same industry. So they were taking advantage of people in their most vulnerable circumstances, which I've always maintained is the biggest problem we have here. And that has always been the biggest problem with capitalism, is that it doesn't see a line when it comes to people's pain and suffering if there is a profit to be had behind it.
I feel like I'm making progress with you after you make a statement like that, Peter. I feel like I'm
always maintained that I support a hybrid system.
There's no such thing. That's like a two-state solution. That's
well, I think what you did to take it a step further, it's the idea that every last penny needs to be taken from anything available, right? So anything from which money can be squeezed from, it must be squeezed, right? For these people, the idea of a stranded asset is like is unholy. It's blasphemous, right? The idea that you didn't get your last ounce out of it, your last dollar out of it. And so that's why you see, I mean, I think many people throughout the country feel this way, just in terms of the development in this country. God forbid we have any green spaces. God forbid we have any place that isn't developed, that isn't, if it's not turned into an apartment or townhomes or homes that people can't afford, then you've got to pave it over then to create it for something else. Right. Or you got to use it for commercial purposes. So I think that the idea that capitalism is destroying us is seen, in so many different ways. But one, I mean, you don't get a better example than, of course, what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Colin, if you can scroll down a little bit, what are
we looking for here?
Again, they're making mention of the fact that he's Ivy League. He was valedictorian of his.
And what do you think their intent is? Because I don't see how that paints him negatively. Like,
it's funny because no, that's fine.
They're trying to make it look like they're trying to take away the issue of the class war in this by doing that. They're trying to make it be like he's not one of you all peasants.
Right.
Because the only thing they can do is that, because otherwise, and I do not see how they're finding 12 people that are biased against the insurance industry.
Yeah, they're just essentially trying to discredit the narrative that this was inevitable. That if you hurt people, they're going to hurt you back. But and that there was an injustice here, there's a continued violation of human dignity in this country. Right, that has to be answered, has to be addressed. And so I think they're doing anything they can to undercut that dialogue, because this is something we should be talking about. And this is what comes from it, but it's not. It won't. It'll be focused on the fact that he's Ivy League, or his parents did this, or he's got chiseled, tan, good looks, et cetera, anything to distract from the conversation that, this is a system that this man was making millions and millions of dollars by denying health care to people and killing them.
Exactly.
But they're also, like I said, there are many layers to this that put them in a very serious bind. How did his family make his money? Oh, he happens to come from money. He happens to come from the right side of town. This is not some, hapless fool who found a gun from the Bronx and ended up in the right place at the right time that they could just pass off as a crazy person. Plus, it's the fact that it is the CEO of the most, not successful, people like to use that word, I will not, the most profitable for-profit health conglomerate in the world.
With the number one amount of claim denial simultaneously.
1 out of 3.
That is the perfect crossover that makes that kind of anger.
Exactly. And so when you see the people that are out there trying to paint this like the New York Times clearly will, because Lord knows they're funded by UnitedHealth, who, as we've pointed out time and again, and I think we mentioned this maybe the last time we were on the show, I do think that RFK's presidential run was actually a good thing from the standpoint that he was the one candidate who was talking about private equity and what that has done to housing in the United States. Well, as it turns out, private equity led by BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, the big three in housing. Well, guess what? They're the 3 biggest shareholders in UnitedHealth. So that's really all you need to know. All of these.
It's a big party.
Yeah. Like it's all connected. It's all one big nasty puzzle piece. But now the people are starting to see it. Now, we only can hope that our reach is as big as it can possibly be. We all know the great work that Jordan is doing over at Status Quo. But of course, we know a lot of content creators are not framing it in this light, which is unfortunate because for them, it's about a career. For us, it's about how the hell do we get this message out there that hopefully thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands, if not hopefully millions of people are able to see that message. Because the thing that made Bernie's run in 2016 so vital is that so many people were angry then, and he was starting to show people where to direct their anger. Well, you know, the Koch brothers are doing their thing and George Soros is doing his thing. And it's like most people don't know who these guys are. They don't know who the real oligarchs are that are controlling everything. And so what Mangione has successfully done is he has already pointed the finger in the right direction, and people are starting to look there and say, oh, so you're the reason that I can't have a healthy, sustainable life.